This is a little bit intimidating, but good morning, everyone. สวัสดีค่ะทุกท่าน So just quick intro because you actually have both of us today. So my name is Dalad, and I'm a partner based here in Bangkok with McKinsey and Company. Together with my colleague Alex, we're very happy to be here. It's an honor to represent the firm, to also share some of our perspectives on where we're at post-pandemic, where we're going, what does this mean for our economies, both in Thailand but at the regional level. Just quick intro is obviously I'm half Thai, half Taiwanese, but grew up in Thailand. Recently came back to Thailand and very excited, to be part of the growth story that I do believe we're about to embark on.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Alex, and despite my look, I'm also a partner in McKinsey based in Bangkok, Thailand. Actually worked a lot with customers in the consumer segment and the tech segment. I'm co-leading our artificial intelligence and data service line in the Southeast Asia and the broader Asia. And by my background, I'm actually a mathematician myself. I'm actually a scientist before joining McKinsey. And I will going to talk today on the technology topics. That's where my passion is, and that's what I believe our future consists of. Now, I think before we start and go into the content, let me briefly tell you what are the topics that we will share with you today, right? So, obviously, thriving amidst uncertainty, the topic itself already implies that the future is not that clear, right? And obviously, we, as all other people, don't have the clear answer or any golden bullets. But there are some indication in the world. There are some, trends that we see that are happening across the globe. Not just in Thailand, not just in Asia, but across the world, in consumer sector and in economy overall. That will be the first topic. Secondly, we would like to share with you a little bit on technology, right? So why technology is important, what's going on with technology, and what are the cornerstone trends shaping the modern consumer market and the modern market in general. And last but not least, of course, we will cover what's going on here, right? In Asia, in Southeast Asia, and in Thailand in particular. So these are three topics for today, and on this, I'll pass it over to Dalad.
Thanks, Alex. So as Alex was sharing, I think, today we wanted to come here and share some of the emerging thoughts, some reflections on what has been happening in our lives, right? And I think all of us have experienced in whatever shape or form critical impacts and actually not only habit forming, but actually things that have really changed the way we behave on a day-to-day, the way we approach health and wellness, the way we actually think about our immediate family network, the way we work. And I think as one of the partners who are leading consumer products retail, but also with my background in private equity, I've lived in over 10 countries, right, in the past 20 years. And what's really interesting is that this pandemic that we have just coming out of, in the last 2.5 years, I think on March 11, 2020 was when the World Health Organization officially declared that we are entering an age of pandemic with the COVID-19 really being a serious thing. And I recall that was when I was still living in Hong Kong. I was in the process of deciding whether I would come back to Thailand or do I move to Dubai, etc. And I do think, one of the big decisions that I had made then was actually, my family, my parents are aging and they're based in Thailand. And it's important for me in times of uncertainties to be closest to my family. And I had made my career decisions, my other personal decisions secondary to that immediate effect of actually this is serious. I need to come home because I don't know if the borders are going to close and what's going to happen. My father was at the time actually been diagnosed with cancer as a side personal story. So these are really big things, and I'm just one person, in the pool of billions global population, and there are hundreds and thousands and millions of stories of people's lives being uprooted, jobs being taken away, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we're now at a stage where it's very apt that we are here today to talk about the implications and the changes that we now need to think about from a day-to-day, but also how we really approach businesses in what we do, right? So moving into the actual macro side of things, we want to walk you through a couple of big trends, right? And we're talking about some of these will seem obvious and will actually come across as, well, we've heard this over the last 2.5, 3 years, and the word new normal is now actually very cliche, and actually we're now moving from new normal, coming out of pandemic and entering the age of endemic into the next normal. We'll touch on a little bit what we mean by next normal. How do we define that? How is that different from just 6 months ago when we didn't really know if Japan was going to open, and now all of us Thai people are rushing to Japan for holidays. I recently just came back from Hong Kong and haven't been there in 3 years, and everyone's talking about how flexible and how adaptable we as human beings are, right? We talk about how just maybe a year ago, we were all afraid. Some of us didn't leave our houses, and today, some of us are more comfortable not wearing masks. And some of us continue to wear masks despite that not being mandated. So we'll talk about the secular changes that is impacting certain consumer trends that are now emerging and becoming bigger as a market size. We'll talk about the concept of new normal. We'll talk about what the new consumers mean from a generational shifts point of view. We'll talk about emerging experiences, behavioral changes that have been happening, partly just from a natural progression of us as humans evolving, but also, from as a direct impact of what the pandemic has done to us. We'll talk about disruptive plays that we are seeing across the board, both at the Asia level, global level, but also in Thailand specifically. So a bit of a lot to cover, but I think the idea is to give a flavor, food for thought, so that today we walk away with some perspectives on, well, actually, I think we should all be grateful that we're all here, healthy and living and breathing, and being able to really think forward about what does this mean for our lives, what does this mean for our career, what does this mean for our immediate family and friends. So, when we think about one of the big secular or kind of changes that we're seeing is not only is health and wellness become really front and foremost an important agenda for us, but sustainability as a whole has really become a strategic imperative for all organizations in ways it has not been before. Sustainability and ESG topics have changed from becoming just something corporates do for PR points or PR agenda to something that they actually have to really be thoughtful about and actively consider and build action plans, strategies around that to really realize what sustainability means. And sustainability comes in different shapes and forms. The biggest topics that we are seeing with our clients globally is around net carbon zero agendas. How do we think about CO2 emission reduction? In this week, COP27 is happening in Egypt and Cairo. So this is something that is a topic that globally we are seeing enhanced and significant interest around. And we're also seeing a lot of consumers that are actually willing to pay more, to spend more, to pay a premium, or even change their entire consumer habits to be a part of the change to make the world greener, right? To reduce their kind of negative impact on the environment. We were very lucky, as Thai people living in Thailand during the pandemic, where if we were not able to travel abroad, we have abundant natural resources. We have a beautiful country with beaches, islands, mountains that I think a lot of the new ways of working, a lot of our younger generations, the Gen Zs, some of the younger millennials have found interesting and creative ways to work from home or work from islands or work from beach. And that is very, very interesting, right? Because how has that changed in terms of habit forming? We are hearing from some of our clients in the talent pool today that as they look to bring back talent into their organizations from the work from home or work from island era, some of these high-performing talent actually don't want to be back in the office. So we're seeing hybrid working. But companies and clients and organizations are still figuring out what that hybrid working model is. We have anthropologists, we have sociologists studying in every cultures, every segment of the market on, does this differ by culture? Does this differ by age groups? And what does it mean, as we're all coming back to the workforce, as we all crave in person, but we also want that freedom of being able to work from anywhere. So that is really changing, and I think all of us are really experiencing that. We've seen that. We talked about how 30% of the global respondents in some of the surveys that we've done willing to really, at least temporary, right, say, okay, I'll pay a little bit more, if I walk into a 7-Eleven and I get a choice between, do I pay $1 more for a recycled paper bag to put my stuff in, or a plastic bag? I probably will pay, because I'm like, hey, that makes me feel good. That's something that makes me feel like I'm a net positive contributor to the world, right? And I think all of this maybe wasn't so top of our minds pre-pandemic. I think, being able to access, I think one of the biggest aha moment, or one of the most grateful moment, if I could call it that, was being able to travel to the islands in Thailand during the pandemic, and really seeing the change, the positive change, how clean the ocean has become, how the lack of people and tourists in general has really naturally cleaned up our environment. And it makes all of us really believe that perhaps this pandemic was necessary as a reset. A lot of things that I'm sure are topics at your dinner conversation tables that all of you have touched on, right? So let's come back to now and talk about then worldwide what is happening from a consumer behavior standpoint. Whilst we have talked about sustainability and helping the world become a greener place, something that is important, across the board, across demographics, we, however, are experiencing a stage of inflation, as we heard earlier, on the opportunistic case, pessimistic case. I think, we hope that maybe we're a hybrid case and there's good or bad in different situations. But all in all, the pandemic and inflation has created a sense of nervousness, right, amongst our consumers, amongst ourselves. This nervousness is being driven by a period of uncertainties. Whilst we are seeing positive, kind of recovery in some of the places closest to home, we've seen viral photos of our airport arrivals being super packed. We are seeing really early positive signs of tourism improving in Thailand. Yet, across the world, we are hearing just a week or two ago, the Chinese stocks are tanking, and then now they're coming back. It's a crypto winter. So we are going through a lot of shifts that are very confusing and volatile. And as a result, our consumers have this almost schizophrenic behaviors of, wait, I want to spend because I've actually not spent that much for the last 2.5 years or so. And now I have all these disposable income, and it's called revenge spending. It's called revenge traveling. There's a reason why flights are now more expensive than ever. Hotels are more expensive than ever. Yet, we are seeing a large proportion of our consumers opting to trade down where they can. Right? So what's interesting is in what product categories and what services Are they looking to trade up versus trade down? And that has been something that's quite dynamic. We've seen that about more than 40% of the global consumers are really shifting and changing brands, they're testing more. And this is obviously driven by, the abundance and availability of digital content, of information access that we have. And as a result, we look at 80% or 82% of the consumers. Naturally, all of us do this. We walk into a store, we see prices of a TV. We immediately take a step back and we hop onto a Lazada or Shopee or HomePro, and we're saying, wait, hang on, we need to just shop around a little bit. I'm not going to make a purchase straight away, even though the salesperson right here next to me is offering me free stuff, is offering me more discounts. But actually, no, I trust myself more. I trust the information that is accessible in this device called the mobile phone, right? So this is what has really changed. And we're seeing this across age groups, actually. And we'll talk about next the age groups and generational shifts. I remember pre-pandemic teaching my now 66-year-old mother how to do emails, teaching her what WhatsApp is or what Line is. Today, my mother is very proficient across social platforms. Aside from Instagram or Facebook, she still does not understand why the youngsters have a need to share their personal information publicly. But remember those days, And then today, we have beyond the boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, also, what's being called the silver age, right? And I think that's an interesting demographic segment that overlaps with the boomers and even a little bit older. And this, I think, is a segment which is emerging because they're wealthy. They are now much more digitally native than ever before, and they're untapped. But the world is actually talking about, the Gen Z and the millennials as being the dominant demographic segments, mainly because of some of these groups or people in its generations being born into an era where being digitally native is second skin, right? As someone who I guess is more on the millennial side of things or late stage millennial side of things, I guess I am a hybrid of growing up in the more analog age and then transitioning into more of a digital age. But I look at my younger brother, I look at my little cousins, I look at younger talent that are coming into the firm and how they approach things so differently to what someone in late stage millennial, if I could call myself that, or even older, are approaching information or approaching life decisions. All of this have an impact on how we look at consumers overall and around the world. So, compared to boomers, which is around mid-50s and above, we see that more than 5x of these populations are much more open to trying new things, right? They like new experiences. Life is about trying new things. Life is about collecting experiences, less about the olden days belief of we have to save for the rainy day. So this is the philosophies of the younger generation. A lot of them are also much more likely to go for independent brands, right? They're moving away from big mainstream brands that their parents or their grandparents are used to. This concept of being more indie, this concept of being more niche, this concept of being more cultish is now cool, right? It's how do they find individuality in their own ways and express that, and hence also why the rise of social media and social commerce, because individuals are now looking for more meaningful ways to tell their stories, to really express who they are at the individual level. And quite a significant proportion of them also are looking for new ways to shop, right? And this is beyond omni-channel. This is about different store formats. This is about different retail formats. This is about more experiential experience. So we are seeing all of this in the shifts that are happening. China has always been at the forefront of social commerce and e-commerce and anything digital, at least for the last decade. In my prior life at Walmart, where I ran M&A and strategy for Walmart Asia, we studied the Chinese ecosystem vis-a-vis Walmart, which is an MNC playing in China. And we used to have colleagues from the US who are actually from the e-commerce teams, from the digital teams, come to visit China initially to actually share their best practices with us, right, in Greater China. And they would come in for a week and we would give them tours of our competition. We'd take them to Alibaba Hema stores. We'd take them, to see all the different vending machine stores, etc. And they're just speechless because they would look at us and be like, actually, China is so much more advanced than what we have in the US. And we need to learn. Actually, the West needs to learn how Asia is doing things, right? So naturally, I think we are also moving into a stage, it's not just China, and obviously China today, we heard from earlier talks as well that, the economic impact of what Xi Jinping is doing, has a lot of knock-on effects on global economy. But if we just remove the politics away from it for a minute, right? We need to recognize that actually, China is a huge market. It's had a lot of innovations that is now having a lot of trickle-down impact on how consumers are behaving. Social commerce alone is going to be over 300 billion in terms of market value. The US is actually behind and following China. TikTok is a great example of what that has done, to Thailand alone. Thailand is one of the largest markets with TikTok users. It's increasingly becoming a critical channel for social influencer management above and beyond, traditional. Well, it's funny to even say that Instagram now or Facebook marketing is traditional, but social commerce, like other platforms in China, are becoming more and more relevant. And so what does this mean, right, for all of us in Asia or Southeast Asia? How do we leverage as a business this channel to really access and understand our consumers in a more meaningful ways is at the top of the agenda for a lot of our clients that are consumer-facing or have B2C businesses. We touch on a little bit about, the notion of individuality. We see, a lot of our younger generations seeking more ways to express who they are. We see this in their notion of defining their archetypes through the way they dress, the way they speak, who they talk to, where they go to eat, where they go to shop, even their travel choices, right? And their career choices. And we are also seeing that what that has changed is at the mobility basic level, the way we eat is different. The way we expect goods and services to come to our doorstep, immediately, that instant gratification is different. Another observation I had was having left Hong Kong 3 years ago, where surprisingly the food delivery options there at the time back in 2018-19 was much, much behind even what we have today or a year or two ago on Food Panda, Grab Food, Robinhood, whatever you call it in Thailand. And because Hong Kong had been so closed during the entire pandemic and only just now started to reopen, but still with restrictions with the 0+3 quarantine regime, I was naturally stuck in quarantine without being allowed to dine in for the first 2 or 3 days, and went through a lot of food delivery options. And just in that 2 years alone, to see the immense growth. And Hong Kong's a small market, and you can argue that, the density or the proximity makes it very, very easy to bring vendors onto the platform. But at the same time, that speed of change is interesting, right? Just from a small anecdotal standpoint, we see in capital markets of how fast some of these early stage companies have grown. GoPuff, which I think the valuation latest today is actually more around 15 billion, is a platform that delivers immediate groceries to your doorstep. It's US-based. We've seen a lot of these coming into play in the last couple of years. We've seen traditional players, conglomerates, are looking to enter the super app space. In India, Tata has launched just under a year or so ago, Tata New app, right, which is also about offering a combined super app to access all their products and services, travel, health, etc. So we are seeing, all of this around the world, and on the right-hand side, it's about personalization and how this is going to be first and foremost at the top of a lot of consumer retail clients and companies' agenda. On the last point, we also touch on the disruptions that we're seeing, the inevitable changes in our food supply chain. Meat alternatives is inevitable as we are entering overpopulation. The world is becoming more and more scarce in terms of natural food sources. Beyond meat, just egg, etc. are some of the examples. The Web3 and metaverse space, the digital assets platform space, and creators economy. So all of these are disruptions that are only the beginning of our technology transformation. So with that, I think I'd like to kind of pass this over to Alex to talk about what we're seeing in the tech world.
Thank you so much, Dalad. Now, friends, when it comes to technology, obviously you expect to hear some additional conversation on AI, Meta, Web 3.0, clouds. Usual suspects, right? Everyone knows what's going on. The problem is all those topics are so huge right now, right? So it will not fit in any conference. So it has no point on talking on the specific technologies. But what I want to share with you is, I think, the biggest disruption that is caused by technology. And good and bad news, this disruption is unstoppable. This disruption will continue for the foreseeable future. And this disruption is unfortunately what all the players are facing right now, no matter what you do, no matter what you sell, no matter what services you provide. Now, to understand what the source of this disruption, we actually have to come back in time a little bit. Not to the Big Bang, of course, but if you imagine yourself back 5, 10 years ago, maybe some of you who are younger, 2, 3 years ago, what actually will strike you if you think about it, how fast and how speedy all the changes and all the disruption are becoming, right? So if you think of the 10 years back, the governments, big corporations, they were talking decades, the plans for decades, the plans for years, and to say that some project could be completed within 6 months, unbelievable. And if you think about now, well, not for me to tell you, you're from tech world, right? Most of you. You'll say years? No, of course not. All the changes, no, week. We are now talking weeks. Maybe tomorrow we will be talking days. And maybe next year, with all the technology landscape, we will be talking seconds. Now, I don't myself, let me tell you a short example on this, that what actually struck me in terms of the speed of change. Last year, when I was in Dubai, I was actually meeting my friend, who is the CEO of one of the Chinese e-grocery players. And I'm also I'm passionate for grocery, I'm passionate for grocery retail. So we were discussing what's going on in China in the industry, and he was complaining that his business kind of grew to the point when he started experiencing problems with top-line growth. Obviously you understand what I'm talking about. And he was saying that maybe these are because of I have low conversions. And I said to him, why don't there is the concept of the real-time personalized pricing through analytics and data. Why don't you try this? I actually drew him an algorithm on the napkin. He said, yeah, okay, that's a great idea. He took a picture of this. He said, let me share it with my team and see what they think about it. Now, I left the meeting, I left the country, so actually I was getting back to my business. And next week, on Friday, my friend called me and told me, listen, thanks for the advice. My team actually already introduced the algorithm. We already see the impact on the conversion. And I said, what? What? Because I'm also from a world where the week for introduction of such a complex thing is unbelievable. But now, of course, this is a reality. Now, that's a problem, right? But then you ask me, what is the solution? I mean, that's all of us that will continue with the new technologies arising, with the Web 3.0, with further advancement in AI and data. Now, to solve this, we need to have something that is constant. It's impossible to live in a world of chaos. It's impossible to live where you don't know what is going on to happen tomorrow. But what is constant in this world? Good news is there is some constant. And what the customer and what we as the people, what are our needs and desires, that stays constant. That does not depend on AI. That does not depend on any other technology. That even does not depend on the business model, to be honest. Because everyone has to live, everyone wants to be healthy, everyone wants to care about their relatives. We want to talk to each other. We want to move from point A to point B and so on. So the only constant, the biggest constant thing when it comes to the technology disruption is the so-called customer needs or consumer needs, right? Because obviously all of this will stay the same no matter what is happening tomorrow, no matter what the players are doing today and what they will do tomorrow. Now, what is the reaction? So now, knowing the problem, knowing what is constant, what is the reaction of the players on this? What different companies and players are doing across the globe? Well, we know some of the answer, right? So we know usual suspects from China, right? So the usual answer is, okay, so if the customer needs are constant, I should make sure that my business model actually cover the customer in a circle, and I'm the first window and the first door that the customer will knock in case of every need, in case of every desire and every problem the customer needs to solve. I mean, Pinyan, Alibaba, Tencent, usual suspects, right, on the ecosystem landscape. That's one of the answers, right? So obviously, we cannot believe that the economy tomorrow is simply the economy of ecosystem. I mean, that's something that not possible. So obviously, a lot of other business models will exist. A lot of other companies will strive. Now, the question is how you connect. So if you have the business, if you have the technology around a specific customer need, if you have partners who can help you to cover the rest of the customer needs, the question is how you connect all of that in one place. Now, that's where the technology comes in. And once again, what is the answer? We all know the typical answer, right? Once again, usual suspects. What is the technology, typical technology platform that allows us to connect different customer needs all together, to build this ecosystem, to build the business around the customer? Well, let's sort of start with the idea, of course. Analytics, data, right? So we want to know the person. We want to understand what's going on in his or her mind. We want to understand what would be his next steps and so on. Loyalty. I mean, loyalty by itself, right? So the set of technologies and the products that help to keep customer in the loop. Partnership model. And partnership today is not a partnership of shaking hands and signing the contracts. It's actually the technology partnership. It's how actually you connect and bring in additional companies to your platforms. How you interchange the data, exchange the data between each other. It's not about the papers anymore, right? It's about the APIs, it's about the protocols, it's about the cloud, and so on. And unfortunately, payments. We still have to pay for the goods, right? So nobody is actually willing to give us something for free. So payments infrastructure, payment technology, fintechs. So these are the usual suspects. We call them the must-have enablers because we do believe that in the model world, the only way how you could, try to settle on this exponential pace of change and make sure you stay together with the customer, then those are the things that you need to think about. Those are how you should shape your technological platform. And saying this, some of the highlights on what are the typical battlegrounds, right? So on the technology front, on the technology platform. Now, obviously the list could be long, right? And you can go as detailed as you want, but I think a couple of things on this page that shows what are the biggest one in terms of what are the biggest technological kind of shifts that are happening right now. Now, first of all, and I will highlight a couple of them. So first of all, the customer is digital, right? And it does not mean that we interact with customer only in digital world. No, it actually means that the perception of the information, how the customer comprehend the information, how the customer interact with the business, is driven by the customer interaction with the smartphone. So if you think about it, our expectation right now from all of the business models and all of the value proposition are based on our experience in the smartphone, and that actually drives our perception of the business. But the same actually is true when we talk about the internal technology, the inside technology of the company. We apply digital analytics everywhere, right? Starting from the products, not just that the products are digital, but the way how we create them is digital, and the way how we match physical and digital value proposition. That's all right now the part of the technology platform. And last but not least, what we also do expect in the consumer industry to happen is the Industry 4.0 revolution, right? Maybe you heard this notion already before, but I think looking in the future, this is one thing that we maybe underappreciate right now, right? So how we will live in a world of Internet of Things, when everything is connected to the network, when actually all the information that we will start getting is we will be getting from the small devices, right? So this I think is one of the most important ones. Now, just to sum up before we pass to the Asian specific and Thailand specific, what I want to emphasize on this session, right? It doesn't really matter how the specific technologies looks like now, right? If you think about the broader scale and where the business is going, I think the main thing to remember is that the pace of change is increasing and it will continue to increase. And the question that we should ask ourselves as the companies, as the businessmen, is what should I do to be able to face this challenge and be able to compete with this increasing pace of change. Now, with this, let me pass back to Dalad and to talk a little bit on the local specifics and Asian trends.
Thanks, Alex. So I think we wanted to end on a note of quoting one of actually my favorite Formula One driver, Senna, who said that you can't overtake 15 cars in sunny weather, but you can when it's raining. So what we thought was really relevant here is, we've learned that opportunities arise not always in fair weather conditions, but to learn how to take advantage of more wet weather conditions. How do we become more resilient? How do we capture and actually identify opportunities that are not obvious? And so I think we came here today to give perspectives on what to think about moving forward. What does next normal mean? I think the down arrow, the takeaway for today, hopefully, is that we have proven to be very resilient as a generation, as a race. We are now very, very ripe to take advantage of the positive changes that are coming out of the pandemic, but also well positioned to really weather any other storms that are coming through, and it's an exciting time ahead. So I think remains to be seen globally, but hopefully, we are moving into more of a fair weather conditions in the next couple of years. Thank you.